So today we will discuss about the Gauss's law in dielectrics or basically in insulator, and we'll introduce what is meant by electric displacement. Okay, so far we have discussed about the effect of external electric field on dielectrics. Okay, so if you have an external electric field applied to a dielectric, we know that there will be a polarization induced. Okay, so if you apply an external electric field to it, then we know that some polarization will be induced here. Okay, and as a result of that polarization, we'll get some bound charges. Okay, so we'll have some the volume bound charge density rho b, and as well as the surface bound charge density sigma b. Okay, so all these things we have discussed till last class. Okay, and the rho b is given by minus del dot p if P is the polarization induced within the material, and the surface bound charge density sigma B is given by P dot N. Okay, now if that is the case, so if you take an insulator or a dielectric, it will have two sources. So that means so there are two sources, or there can be two sources inside the material. So which are they? One is the bound charges, and obviously the other ones are the free charges. So we have two sources within the material. If you take in general the bound charges, so that is characterized by, or that is it's measured, we can denote by rho b, and free charges for the time being I can denote it as rho f. Okay, so in electrostatics we have discussed only about free charges. So in those cases we have used a symbol rho for the volume charge density, so actually the free charge densities. Okay, since we have bound charges separately, so better we can use some subscript B for bound and F for free charges. So if you look at any material, any dielectric, so total charge density would be the sum of the bound charge density and the free charge density. Okay, so then we can just revisit our Gauss's law. So Gauss's law in the presence of dielectric. So Gauss's law is the divergence of electric field is simply rho by epsilon zero. Now, what is this rho here? This rho is the total charge density, and the total charge density at present, it is sum of the free charge density and the bound charge density. Okay, so we can just rearrange this equation. So I can write it as del dot epsilon zero times E equal rho F plus what is rho B? Rho B is nothing but minus del dot P. So rho B I can write minus del dot P. Now this minus del dot P can be taken to the right side, so left side. So I will get the equation del dot epsilon 0 E plus P equal rho F. Okay, so this is a kind of Gauss's law we are getting. Now this equation can be modified in another way. I can denote this epsilon 0 E plus P as a new vector. So I will denote this vector as vector D. So finally I can write this equation as del dot vector D equal rho F. Now this vector D is called the electric displacement vector. Okay, the vector D is the electric displacement vector. So we can make this inside the box. So vector D is the electric displacement vector, and what it is, so vector D is equal to epsilon 0 E plus P. So this equation is basically called the Gauss's law in the presence of dielectric. So if you have a dielectric, so instead of writing del dot D equal to rho by epsilon 0, it is useful if you write del dot D equal to rho F, because this rho F we can control, because rho F are the free charge density. So it can be controlled directly. We cannot control the bound charges, because bound charges is uh, uh, the result of the external electric field. So it depending upon the strength of the external electric field, and as well as the structure of the molecule, etc., or the properties of the material. So we have no direct control over rho B, but we have direct control over rho F. So it is better, it is always useful to write our Gauss's law in terms of this electric displacement. So finally, so in terms of electric displacement, our Gauss's law can be written as del dot D equal to rho F. So that means once you know rho F, we can calculate the divergence of the electric displacement. And what is vector D? So vector D is epsilon 0 E plus P. Okay, so rho F can be controlled by us, whereas we have no control over rho B. So this, it would be useful to express the Gauss's law in terms of the quantity which can be controlled by us. So hence we use D instead of E in case of dielectrics. Okay, so we have del dot D equal to rho F. Now if you, in the case of electrostatics, we have del dot E equal to rho by epsilon 0. Okay, so from this it is very direct that I can write the electric field is equal to 1 by 4 pi epsilon 0 integral rho of r prime d top prime by script r square. Okay, so we might have, you might be remembering this formula. Okay, I can write the electric field in this form. Okay, so this is basically Coulomb's law. This comes from the Coulomb's law. So del dot E equal rho by epsilon 0 implies this equation. That is, once you know rho, I can find electric field. So if you know rho F, can we able to find D with this kind of expression? Is that possible or not? That means, is it possible to write D as 1 by, okay, because there is no epsilon 0 here, so there is no need to write epsilon 0. So 1 by 4 pi integral rho F of r prime d top prime divided by the script r square. Is it possible or not? The answer is it is not possible. We cannot write this kind of equation in general. So although the Gauss's law looks like sine, the divergence of the electric field and the displacement look like same, but the curl of the electric field and displacement are not same. If you look at the curl of the electric field, the curl of the electric field is always 0. But the curl of the displacement is not always 0. So that's therefore this electric field and the electric displacement are not always completely, it does not have complete resemblance. Okay, so there is some difference between the E and D, because D also depending upon the polarization. Okay, del cross D need not be zero. If you look at del cross D, del cross D would be equal to epsilon 0 del cross E plus del cross P. And obviously in electrostatics, del cross E is 0. So therefore this become del cross P, and del cross P need not be 0 always. Okay, so that is the case. That is the electric displacement and the electric field are not actually same. There is no Coulomb's law for electric displacement, whereas we have Coulomb's law for the electric field. Okay, but anyhow, this is an important equation for us, so we will use it in order to find the electric displacement. In some cases, it would be very easy. That is how we can use this equation. So we can use this equation by using the integral form of Gauss's law. So this is actually the differential form of Gauss's law. What would be the integral form of the Gauss's law? Okay, so we have a del dot D equal to rho F. So if you integrate this over a volume, del dot D over a volume d tau, and this become integral rho F d tau. Okay, so this is a integration over a volume. It might be some closed volume. Okay, now the closed integration of del dot D over a volume is nothing but, so the volume is always a closed quantity. So it is nothing but the closed integration d dot ds. So this is according to the Gauss's divergence theorem. I can convert the surface integral into uh, a volume integration of its divergence. So that should be equal to the total charge, the total free charges QF. Okay, so closed integral d dot ds is equal to QF. So this is the integral form of Gauss's law. Now this can be used in some cases to find the electric displacement in terms of the free charge densities. Sorry, total free charges. Okay. So remember, there is no direct formula for D. There is no a formula like the Coulomb's law for to find the electric displacement. But we can find the electric displacement if it has some kind of symmetry. Okay. So that is why this equation is useful if the to find D in terms of free charges if it possesses some symmetry. Okay. So if the system has some symmetry, like in case of electric field, we have used the Gauss's law to find the electric field of certain charge distribution, for example line charges and point charges, and as well as the surface charges. We can find the electric field directly by using the Gauss's law. Okay, so here also, because that poses some types of symmetry. Okay, the point charges produces the spherical symmetry electric field, and line charges produce a cylindrical symmetry. So if the system has some symmetry, then D can be found using the above equation. Okay, so then it is better to illustrate this statement. That is how we can use this symmetry to find the electric displacement. So there is one question, example 4.4 in your textbook. Example 4.4, it is electrodynamics by Griffith. Introduction to electrodynamics by Griffith. It's third edition. In later edition also the same example would be there. Only difference is there will be a difference in this example number. Okay, so the problem is this. So consider a long straight wire. a long straight wire carrying uniform line charge lambda carrying uniform line charge lambda surrounded by rubber insulation out to a radius small a is surrounded by rubber insulation. So rubber insulation is basically an insulator or dielectric insulation of radius small a. Find the electric displacement inside and as well as outside of the insulator. Okay, so better I will draw this problem. So the problem is like this. So we have a very long charged wire, uniformly charged wire. So which has the charge density lambda. Now it is surrounded by some cylinder, insulating cylinder. It's made up of rubber. Okay, good. So this is the rubber insulator. Okay. Now, so the electric field would be produced by this lambda. So if you have this the electric field, this electric field produced by lambda should be act as some type of external electric field inside the rubber. So there will be some polarization inside the rubber. So there can be some polarization. The polarization should not be zero. Now, outside, if you consider outside, the polarization is always zero. So there will be some displacement inside. So displacement would be non-zero. And here also we can have a displacement would be non-zero. So I have to find this displacement. So since this problem has a cylindrical symmetry, so I can draw a Gaussian surface. So draw a small Gaussian surface in the shape of a cylinder. Its radius can be S. Okay. Now this electric displacement would be radially outward. So therefore, if you look at the Gauss's law of electric displacement, integral d dot ds equal to the total charge enclosed. So the electric displacement will have flux only over this curved region. There is no flux over the flat region. So the electric displacement has flux only through the curved region. So the this total integral d dot ds would be d times the area of this curved surface. So curved surface for the time being, the length of this curved surface can be taken as L. So this become the perimeter of the curved surface times length. That would be the total area 2 pi SL equal to the total free charges would be equal to the charge density lambda times length, because linear charge density is lambda, the charge per unit length. So for length L, this will contain lambda L charges. So therefore, the magnitude of D would take the form the L will cancel, become lambda by 2 pi S. Okay, and what would be the direction? The direction should be along radial direction. So this would be the electric displacement for S less than the radius of the radius of this insulated sheet. So this insulated sheet has radius A. Now, what about outside? So outside also, if you look at a bigger Gaussian sphere, sorry, Gaussian cylinder, if you look at a bigger Gaussian cylinder of same length, okay. So for outside, the electric displacement will take the same form, the D equal to lambda by 2 pi s small s, even for s greater than A. So I've got the electric displacement for inside the cylinder and as well as the outside the insulated cylinder. Now inside the cylinder, the polarization is non-zero, so it is not possible to find the electric field inside the cylinder directly. Okay, so the inside P is non-zero, so therefore we cannot find electric field inside. But it is possible to find electric field outside, because outside the polarization is zero. So therefore, what would be your electric displacement? So the electric displacement will become epsilon 0 E equal to lambda by 2 pi s times s. Because in here this P is 0, so therefore the displacement in general electric displacement is epsilon 0 E plus P. So since P is 0 outside, D simply equal to epsilon 0 times E. So therefore E become lambda by 2 pi epsilon 0 s times unit vector s. Okay, so this is the electric field outside the insulated cylinder. Okay, so that is very easy to found now. But inside it is not possible to find the electric field. Only reason is we don't know what is the form of the polarization. Okay, so this is just an illustration, that is how we can use the Gauss's law of dielectrics to find the dielectrics, the electric displacement inside the material. Okay, so it is not always useful, because if the system possesses certain symmetry, then only we can use this kind of Gauss's law. Otherwise, we have to use some other method to find the strength of the electric displacement inside the material. Okay, so finally we can discuss about one more thing about electric displacement, that is the boundary conditions. So boundary conditions for electric displacement. Okay, so the derivation of boundary condition we have discussed in detail while we are discussing the electrostatics. So it is basically we can derive it from the integral equation. So first we can write the differential equation for the displacement. So they are del dot D equal to rho F and del cross D equal to del cross P. So these are the two main equations for electric displacement in differential form. If you convert this into integral form, the del dot D times rho F can be written as closed integral D dot ds equal to QF, and the closed integral D dot dl equal to the closed integral P dot dl. Okay, so here only you have to use the Stokes theorem to convert this equation. Okay, so what I have to do is I have to integrate del cross D over a surface that should be equal to the surface integral of del cross P. and you can convert the surface integral into line integral by using the Stokes theorem. Okay, so this you can do it yourself. Okay, so since these are the two equations, from these two equations you can get the boundary conditions. So first we can take this, the closed integral d dot ds equal to qf. So consider a boundary. Suppose this is some boundary. Okay, so it is some material 1, some material 2. Now in order to apply this Gauss's law, so you have to take some pill box. So better you can take the pill box in cylindrical shape, that would be easier. So consider a cylinder immersing through this boundary. Okay, so here the electric displacement I can write d1, I can write d2. I don't know what is the direction of d1 and d2. In general, the d1 may be along this direction, d2 may be along this direction, whatever it may be. Now just apply this equation. So what I will do is I will assume the length of the cylinder would be very small. So when you are applying this Gauss's law, I will use the limit L tends to 0, closed integral d dot ds equal to limit L tends to 0 qf. Okay, so when the limit L tends to 0, then this surface integration over the closed surface we can neglect, because that would be negligibly small if L is very small. So we have basically two integration. So one is the integration over the upper surface, one is the integration over the upper surface, and other one is integration over the lower surface. So in case of integration over the upper surface, its direction of vector, the unit vector along this direction n1, and here n2 along this direction, opposite direction. So when limit L tends to 0, when limit L tends to 0, we basically we have only two integration. One is integration over the first surface, that is upper surface, d1 dot ds, plus integration over the second surface, that is the lower surface, d2 dot ds, and the integration over the curved surface would be 0. And that would be equal to limit L tends to 0 qf. So that is the qf, it is at the boundary. Okay, so the qf is on at this boundary, how much charge is there. Okay, now what would be integral over the first surface d1 dot ds. So d1 is a general vector like this, and the direction of area vector along n1. So d1 dot ds would give the displacement vector along the direction n1. So that would be the displacement vector perpendicular to the surface, because d1 I can divide into 2, d1 parallel to the surface and d1 perpendicular to the surface. So if you take the dot product between d1 dot ds, so that would be d1 dot n1 into area vector. Now d1 dot n1 would give the displacement along the direction n1. So displacement along the direction n1 is simply d1 perpendicular. So this will give d1 perpendicular into integral ds. Integral ds would give the area of that surface. So that would give d1 in d1 perpendicular times a plus d2 dot ds. So d2 perpendicular is in the upward direction, whereas n2 is in the downward direction. So there is an 180-degree difference between d2 perpendicular and n2 direction. So therefore d2 perpendicular dot ds would give minus d1 d2 perpendicular. This minus sign comes because the d2 perpendicular and n2 are along the opposite directions, times a would be equal to the qf at boundary. Okay, so this a can be taken to the right side. So what I will get is d1 perpendicular minus d2 perpendicular equal to qf by a, and that becomes d1 perpendicular minus d2 perpendicular. Qf by a is nothing but the surface charge density sigma f, surface charge density at the boundary. Okay, so this is uh, the boundary condition. So the boundary condition connecting the perpendicular component of the electric displacement. So this we have got by using the integral form of the Gauss's law. Okay, so the same way. Okay, now similarly I can use the integral form of the electric displacement, the line integral form of electric displacement, to find connecting the parallel component of electric displacement over the boundary. Okay, I think that I will giving to you as a homework, so you can do it yourself. So I am just giving the result. So by using the expression closed integral d dot dl equal to closed integral p dot dl, you can show that the d1 parallel minus d2 parallel equal to p1 parallel minus p2 parallel. So how to do that? So I think that is again not a very difficult task. How to consider a boundary. Then instead of taking um, a Gaussian pillbox, here you have to consider a line integral. So a closed loop I have to consider. Okay, so the closed loop, somewhere I can write A, B, C, D. So I have to integrate D over this closed loop. Okay, so this AB above the boundary, and BC is immersing through the boundary, and CD below the boundary, and DA. And suppose this is L. Now what I will do is I have to integrate this closed integral D dot DL. The limit L tends to 0. Okay, so when the limit L tends to 0, then integration over the line BC and over the line DA can be neglected. So that would tends to 0. Okay, then we have to consider only the line integral from A to B and line integral from C to D. So then when limit L tends to 0, we have only two cases. One is line integration from A to B d dot dl. So that would be d1 dot dl, because this can be taken as 1, this can be taken as 2, plus integral C to D d2 dot dl equal to the same limit L tend to 0 integral p1 dot dl from A to B plus integral from C to D p2 dot dl. Okay, so the remaining I am giving to you. So from this you have to show that d1 parallel minus d2 parallel equal p1 parallel minus p2 parallel. Okay, so these are the boundary conditions. So finally I can just write down the summarize the boundary conditions here. So the boundary conditions are the d1 perpendicular minus d2 perpendicular equal sigma f, d1 parallel minus D2 parallel equal P1 parallel minus P2 parallel. So this is an important thing for us. So we have to use it further. Okay, so with this discussion, we will stop it here. So we can just summarize what are the things we have discussed today. So we have started with the Gauss's law in dielectrics. Okay, the dielectrics or insulator. So in dielectrics or as well as insulator, if you apply the external electric field, that produces the induced dipole moment or polarization, and as a result, we'll get some bound charges inside. So if you take a material, you can have two kind of charges. One is a free charges, so that we have direct control, and other one is the bound charges. So therefore the total charge density is simply the sum of the bound charge density and free charge density, and hence I can write del dot E equal to rho by epsilon 0, and rho I can split into free charge density plus bound charge density, and bound charge density is minus del dot P. And so finally I can write the Gauss's law in the form of del dot D equal to rho F, where D is given as epsilon 0 times E plus P. Okay. Now since del dot D equal to rho F, where D equal to epsilon 0 E plus P, but there is no Gauss's law for there is no Coulomb's law for electric displacement. So the electric displacement and the electric field are not parallel. They are not actually one and same. So they are entirely different quantities. Okay, I cannot use the analogy of the electric field for the case of electric displacement. So although it has a similar kind of Gauss's law, the differential form, but the form of its curl are not same. Okay, so a vector is characterized by its divergence and as well as the curl. So if the divergence and curl are same, then both the vectors would look like same. But here the divergence and curl are different. The del dot D and del dot E takes the same structure, but its curl are not taking the same structure. So that is why we don't have a complete parallel between the electric field and electric displacement. But however, this expression we can use it to find the electric displacement if the system possesses some symmetry. And the other thing is, other important point of this equation is this equation is useful for us because the rho f can be directly controlled by us. So that is the another advantage of this equation. So we have two advantages over this displacement formalism. The one is the raw, it is expressed in terms of free charge density, which has we have direct control over it. And other one is we can use this equation to find the electric displacement if the system possesses some symmetry. And for that we have to express this electric displacement equation in the integral form. So there's a Gauss's law for electric displacement, and we have so this equation is similar to the Gauss's equation for the electric field. That is, instead of the total charge by epsilon 0, we are getting only the total charge QF. So that is the only difference. Okay. So we can use all the technique that we have used for the Gauss's law for electric field in the case of electric displacement. Only thing is the system has to possess certain kind of symmetry, and we have illustrated it. That is how to use this equation to find the electric displacement inside the material and as well as the outside the material. And finally, we have discussed the boundary condition. And for the boundary condition, we need the integral form of the electric displacement equation. So we have two integral equation. One is the surface integration, other one is the line integration. And I have derived how to find the connection between the perpendicular component of electric displacement crossing the boundary. So I've completely derived it. So that is the difference between the perpendicular component depending upon the amount of surface free charge density at the boundary. Okay, so d1 perpendicular minus d2 perpendicular sigma f, and the sigma f should be over the boundary. Okay, and the parallel components is depending upon its difference is depending upon the difference between the polarizations p1 parallel minus P2 parallel, and this I am giving as a homework to you. So I am not completed the derivation. I have just given the hint how to do it. So this you can complete it and prove it yourself. Okay, so thank you everyone. So in the next class, I will be discussing about the linear dielectrics. Okay, so thank you.